He's a better father anyway, my son said at the family reunion. 15 years wasted on a loser, my wife laughed with her new boyfriend. I just nodded, glanced at my watch, and walked away. The next morning, the news broke, and suddenly everyone understood why I never fought back. You know that moment when your whole world just snaps into focus, and you realize the person you've built your life with is a complete stranger? For me, that moment wasn't a shouting match or a dramatic revelation. It was just a quiet sunset and a smile on my wife's face that wasn't for me, a smile that carved a cold, hard truth into my gut. Chapter 1. The first crack. There I stood, Vincent Reynolds, at 52, in my perfectly manicured backyard in Northern Virginia, bourbon in hand. 20 years in military intelligence, then a successful private security consultant. This sprawling property, this life, it was my kingdom. I had 2 kids in college, respect in every circle I moved in. Everything was perfect. Then I heard it, a soft laugh drifting over. My wife, Dominique, sat on the patio, her face lit up by her phone and by something else, something I hadn't seen directed at me in years. That intimate smile, the hushed tones, the way her fingers toyed with her dark hair. I should go, she whispered into the phone, then practically jumped when she saw me watching. The phone slid into her pocket. Just Marissa from book club, she said. I nodded, my face a mask. Marissa from book club. The same excuse for 3 months straight. The lie had worn thin weeks ago. Late nights, new clothes, a sudden obsession with fitness, and that faint, unfamiliar cologne that sometimes clung to her. Our 25-year marriage had weathered so many storms, my long deployments, the chaos of raising Noah and Sophia, the challenge of building a new life. But this was different. My career was built on spotting lies, on extracting truth. And I knew deep down what I was seeing. Later, Noah called. He was excited to bring his new girlfriend to the family reunion. Dominique's interest seemed genuine. Our son, 22, always closer to his mother. Sophia, 24, brilliant like me, determined like her. My daddy's girl, observant, perceptive, fiercely loyal. She was still in Europe with her research team, probably wouldn't make the reunion. That night, Dominique slept beside me, oblivious. I lay awake, compiling the evidence. Text messages reflected on the bedroom window as she typed in the bathroom. Credit card statements for lunches for 2 at hotels where she claimed to be alone. Her car's GPS history, telling a different story than her words. I never intended to spy on my wife, but 2 decades in intelligence had ingrained certain habits. Observation. Pattern recognition. Threat assessment. I knew who he was. Preston Harlow, 48, recently divorced. Pharmaceutical sales executive. Met Dominique at a charity gala 6 months ago. Preston with his slick Italian suits, his Mediterranean yacht photos on social media. Preston, who had never served his country, never known true sacrifice. Preston, who was now enjoying the fruits of my labor. I closed my eyes, not in defeat, but in cold, ruthless calculation. There would be no confrontation. No desperate pleas. No marriage counseling. That wasn't my way. Instead, I began to construct a mental blueprint. Meticulously detailed. Precisely timed. But this blueprint wasn't for a military operation. This was for something far more personal. Chapter 2. The setup. The week-long family reunion at Lake Anna. A tradition my parents started, bringing the whole Reynolds clan together. This year, it was the perfect cover. I'd secured 3 cabins, one for Dominique and me, one for Noah and his girlfriend, and a third that, ostensibly, was awaiting Sophia's potential arrival. I watched from the main lodge deck as Preston's silver BMW pulled in. Right on schedule. Dominique had claimed she needed to drive separately errands on the way. The reunion was perfect. Her lover could easily blend in among our distant relatives and family friends. Vincent, how long has it been? Preston approached, radiating practiced confidence, his hand outstretched. As if we were old acquaintances, not players in a game Dominique had orchestrated. Preston, good to see you, I replied, my voice warm, my grip firm. Dominique mentioned you might stop by. Wouldn't miss it. He smiled, those perfect veneers gleaming. Your family reunions are legendary, according to her. I nodded. 27 years running. My father started the tradition. Preston's eyes darted around, searching for Dominique. Beautiful place. Family is everything, I said, my voice steady, though a silent rage simmered beneath. The day dragged on. Forced pleasantries. I played the gracious host, watching every interaction between my wife and her lover. Their attempts at discretion were almost insulting in their transparency. Brief touches. Knowing glances. Synchronized bathroom breaks that lasted suspiciously long. By evening, most of the family gathered around a huge bonfire. I stood a little apart, nursing a whiskey when Noah approached. His girlfriend, Tessa, lingered behind him. Dad, can we talk? Noah asked, his face far too serious for his age. Of course, son. He led me away from the crowd. I know about Mom and Preston. I said nothing, watching his face. She told me a few weeks ago, he continued. She said you two haven't really been married in any real way for years. Just going through the motions. I took a measured sip of my whiskey. And you believe that? I've seen how you are, Dad. Always distant, always working. Mom says you checked out of the marriage years ago. His voice hardened. Preston actually listens to her. He makes her happy. I absorbed the blow without flinching. I see. I wanted you to know that I know. And that it's okay if you guys split up. People grow apart. He shifted uncomfortably. Preston's actually pretty cool. He's already offered to help me get an internship at his company. I nodded slowly. That's generous of him. Yeah. Noah shrugged, looking away. He's a better father anyway. The words struck like precision artillery, but I merely checked my watch. I appreciate your honesty, Noah. Excuse me for a moment. I walked toward the dock where Dominique stood with Preston, their silhouettes against the moonlit lake. As I approached, I heard her laughter. 15 years wasted on that loser, she chuckled, leaning into Preston's embrace. He doesn't even suspect a thing. I cleared my throat. They jumped apart like guilty teenagers. Vincent, I didn't see you there, Dominique stammered, her face flushing. Clearly, I replied coolly. I checked my watch again. I'm heading back to our cabin. Don't wait up. As I turned to leave, Preston called after me, Hey, Vincent, no hard feelings, right? These things happen. I paused, then simply nodded and walked away, ignoring the muffled laughter that resumed behind me. Instead of returning to the cabin, I walked to my SUV and drove away from the resort. My phone was already connecting to a secure line. Is everything in place? I asked when the call connected. Yes, sir, replied the voice on the other end. All systems are ready. Activation on your command. Good. Execute 0600 hours. No deviations. I ended the call, my face illuminated by the dashboard lights, not in anguish, but in cold, calculated anticipation. Chapter 3. The morning sun had barely crested the horizon when I returned. I just poured myself a coffee in the main lodge when my phone vibrated, with a news alert. Then, one by one, other phones around the lodge began chiming and buzzing as the same alert reached them. I watched impassively as people's expressions morphed from sleepy indifference to shock. Oh my God, gasped an elderly aunt, staring at her screen. Preston Harlow is a terrorist. What? Someone else exclaimed, gathering around her phone. I sipped my coffee and observed as the news spread like wildfire. Headlines screamed across every screen. Breaking. Pharmaceutical executive Preston Harlow linked to bioweapon development. Top secret documents reveal Harlow Pharmaceuticals tested illegal compounds on unwitting patients. FBI raids Harlow residences and corporate headquarters. Accompanying the headlines were photos of Preston being led away in handcuffs. To the untrained eye, they looked recent. I knew they were carefully doctored images, created by former colleagues still indebted to me. Dominique burst into the lodge, her face ashen. Have you seen the news? This can't be real. I regarded her calmly. Shocking, isn't it? But it's impossible. I know Preston. He wouldn't. She stopped abruptly, realizing her mistake. Know him well, do you? I asked, my voice eerily gentle. Before she could respond, federal agents flooded into the lodge, their FBI jackets unmistakable. Leading them was Special Agent Derek Walsh, a man who owed his career and his life to me after a classified operation in Kandahar years earlier. "Preston Harlow," Walsh called out, scanning the room. All eyes turned to the entrance where Preston stood frozen, having just arrived from his cabin, his face drained of color. "Preston Harlow, you're under arrest for conspiracy against the United States, illegal weapons development, and treason. This is insane. I've done nothing wrong." Preston protested as agents surrounded him. "Vincent, tell them this is a mistake." I merely sipped my coffee, watching as Preston's gaze shifted from pleading to dawning comprehension. "You," Preston whispered. "You did this." I remained silent as the agents handcuffed him. "How could you?" Dominique hissed at me, her eyes wild with panic. "What have you done?" "I've simply been a dedicated civil servant all my life," I replied softly. "I report threats when I see them." I nodded toward Agent Walsh, who was now approaching Dominique. "Mrs. Reynolds, we have some questions about your relationship with Mr. Harlow. We've discovered numerous communications between you suggesting you may have been aware of his activities." "That's ridiculous. I knew nothing about any of this," Dominique protested. "The evidence suggests otherwise," Walsh replied. "We'll need you to come with us for questioning." As agents escorted both Dominique and Preston out, Noah pushed through the crowd, his expression a mixture of confusion and betrayal. "Dad, what the hell is happening?" he demanded. I placed my coffee cup down carefully. "It appears your mother and her boyfriend have been involved in something very dangerous, Noah. I'm as shocked as you are. This is Bull's asterisk. You did something, didn't you?" Noah accused, his voice cracking. I met his gaze steadily. "I've spent my life protecting this country from threats, son. That's all I've ever done." As Noah stormed off, my phone vibrated with a text from Sophia. "Phase 1 complete. Arriving tonight for Phase 2. Well done, Dad." I allowed myself the briefest smile before composing my features into an appropriate mask of concern and confusion. The family chaos provided perfect cover as I slipped away. This was merely the beginning. Chapter 4. The truth unveiled 3 days after the arrests. I sat across from Noah in a quiet DC cafe. He looked haggard, dark shadows under his eyes from sleepless nights spent watching his mother and Preston vilified across every news outlet. "The evidence is fabricated," Noah stated flatly, pushing away his untouched coffee. "I've spoken to Mom's lawyer. They can't find any actual links between Preston's company and these supposed bioweapons." I nodded thoughtfully. "That's good news then. If they're innocent, the truth will come out." "Cut the crap, Dad," Noah snapped. "You're behind this. I don't know how, but this has your fingerprints all over it." I studied my son, recognizing the intelligence that had always made Noah exceptional. "Why would I do something like that?" "Revenge," Noah replied without hesitation. "Mom cheated on you, so you're destroying her life and Preston's." "It's sick." "An interesting theory," I conceded. "But consider this. If I had the power to orchestrate something of this magnitude, what does that tell you about the man you've dismissed as a loser who's checked out of his marriage?" Noah fell silent, confusion crossing his features. "Did your mother ever tell you what I actually did during those years I was distant and always working?" I asked quietly. "Government security consultant?" Noah answered automatically. I smiled thinly. "A convenient title. Tell me, what do you know about Preston beyond his sales job and his yacht?" "He's successful. He cares about Mom." "Did you know he was investigated 3 years ago for selling pharmaceutical secrets to foreign entities?" I interrupted, sliding a file across the table. "Or that his company has been quietly acquiring small biotech firms specializing in weaponized pathogens?" Noah stared at the file but didn't touch it. "If that's true, why wasn't he arrested before?" "Powerful friends, money in the right pockets." I shrugged. "The system isn't perfect." "So, what are you saying? That Mom accidentally fell in love with an actual criminal?" I leaned forward. "I'm saying perhaps I was absent from family dinners because I was protecting our country from people exactly like Preston Harlow. And perhaps your mother's infidelity simply provided the motivation to look more closely at a man I already had concerns about." Noah's hands trembled as he finally opened the file, scanning documents bearing authentic government seals and classifications. This doesn't justify framing them, he insisted, but with less conviction. I haven't framed anyone, Noah. I simply provided intelligence to the appropriate authorities. My voice remained calm. The question you should be asking is not why I would do this, but why your mother chose a man like Preston in the first place. Noah looked up sharply. What does that mean? Did you know your mother met Preston 3 years ago, not 6 months ago as she claimed? I produced another document, a surveillance photo dated well before Dominique's supposed first meeting with Preston. Or that she's visited his private account in the Cayman Islands twice in the past year? She wouldn't, Noah stammered. The internship he offered you, I continued relentlessly. The position reports directly to a research division currently under investigation by 3 separate agencies. Noah pushed back from the table, his face pale. I don't believe you. You don't have to, I replied, gathering the documents. But you might want to reconsider who the villain is in this story. As Noah stormed out of the cafe, my phone rang. Sophia. He's struggling with it, I reported when I answered. As expected, Sophia replied. The Swiss account transfers are complete. Are you sure about the next step? It's extreme, even for them. They chose their path, I stated, my voice hardening. And Noah made his choice clear at the reunion. He's just a kid, Dad. He didn't understand. He's 22, Sophia. Old enough to publicly declare another man a better father while knowing what her mother was doing. My tone broke no argument. Actions have consequences. After ending the call, I walked to my car where Derek Walsh waited. The federal charges won't stick, Walsh warned without preamble. My superiors are already questioning the evidence. They don't need to stick, I replied, sliding into the passenger seat. They just needed to exist long enough to trigger the international attention. Walsh nodded grimly. Interpol has issued their own warrants based on European distribution channels linked to Harlow. That's beyond my jurisdiction and my help. I never expected the American charges to be the end of it, I assured him. Just the beginning. How's the surveillance on Noah? In place. He's angry, confused. Made 3 calls to your wife's attorney after leaving you. Walsh hesitated. Are you sure about bringing him into this? He's your son. I stared out the window at the Capitol dome gleaming in the distance. My son died at that reunion when he chose them over the truth. What remains is a pawn in a larger game. Walsh shook his head slightly, but said nothing more as we drove toward my next appointment with a Russian intelligence officer. The game was expanding, precisely as I had designed it to. Chapter 5. The net widens. The exclusive private club in Georgetown provided perfect cover for my meeting with Alexei Petrov, a mid-level SVR officer. We sat in a wood-paneled alcove, classical music masking our conversation. Your wife and her lover have created quite the international incident, Alexei remarked, sipping his vodka. Moscow is particularly interested in the Novak derivative formulas allegedly found on Harlow's servers. Imagine that, I replied neutrally. Alexei smiled thinly. We both know those formulas were planted. The question is, by whom? You? Or someone using you? Does it matter? The evidence exists, and multiple intelligence agencies are now investigating connections that weren't on their radar before. It matters to those of us trying to determine if this is personal revenge or something more geopolitically motivated. Alexei studied me carefully. Your daughter's research in Europe, so close to our Ukrainian operations, has not gone unnoticed. My expression didn't change, though internally, I noted that Sophia's cover was holding perfectly. My daughter is a medical researcher, nothing more. Of course, Alexei conceded with obvious disbelief. Just as you're merely a retired security consultant. Tell me, does Noah understand the role he's playing in your chess match? The mention of my son's name from Russian lips sent a cold surge through me, though I betrayed nothing. I wasn't aware he was playing any role. No, Alexei produced a phone showing surveillance photos. Noah entering the Russian consulate in Boston 2 hours earlier. It seems he's shopping quite an interesting story to anyone who'll listen. Claims his father has fabricated evidence against his mother and her lover, wants help proving it. I absorbed this information with practiced calm. The desperate actions of a confused young man. Perhaps, Alexei agreed. Or the opening moves of a counterlay you didn't anticipate. We're considering hearing him out. I wouldn't recommend that, I said softly, the subtle threat hanging in the air. Alexei chuckled. Always the protective father, despite everything. Don't worry, Vincent. We didn't let him in, but others might. The Chinese, perhaps, or the Iranians. Your son is broadcasting his willingness to provide information on a decorated American intelligence operative in exchange for help exonerating his mother. That makes him valuable, I added. And dangerous. Indeed. Alexei finished his drink. Dominique has been moved to a secure facility pending additional questioning. Diplomatic pressure from 3 countries has escalated her case beyond standard channels. This was news to me. Which countries? Germany, France, and surprisingly, Japan. All places where Harlow Pharmaceuticals has subsidiaries currently under inspection. Alexei stood to leave. Whatever game you're playing, Vincent, it has expanded beyond your control. That's usually when mistakes happen. After Alexei departed, I sat alone, processing this development. Noah's betrayal cut deeper than expected, but it also presented an opportunity to accelerate the timetable. I placed a call to a secure line. Change of plans. Activate protocol duties immediately. Across town, Sophia received the message. Unlike her brother, Sophia had never been fooled by our mother's facade. Growing up, watching Dominique manipulate me had forged Sophia's unwavering loyalty and her willingness to participate in my intricate plan. Sophia initiated a sequence of encrypted commands that would trigger digital tripwires planted throughout Dominique's and Preston's digital lives. Within hours, every dark secret they had tried to bury would begin surfacing in carefully orchestrated revelations. Meanwhile, Noah paced his hotel room, furious after being turned away from the Russian consulate. His phone rang. A blocked number. Hello, he answered cautiously. Noah Reynolds, an accented voice inquired. This is a friend. I understand you're looking for help regarding your mother's situation. Who is this? Someone who shares your concern about the evidence against Preston Harlow and Dominique Reynolds. Perhaps we could meet. Noah hesitated only briefly before agreeing to the meeting, unaware that the call originated from a team operating under my direct control. The trap was set. That evening, as news broke of additional evidence linking Preston to biological weapons research in North Korea, I sat in my study, reviewing the final stages of my plan. On my desk lay photographs, not of Dominique or Preston, but of my children. Noah as a boy, looking up at me with adoration. Sophia graduating with honors. A family that once seemed perfect. For a brief moment, I allowed myself to feel the weight of what was being lost in my pursuit of justice. Then I thought of the family reunion, of the public humiliation, of 15 years being dismissed as wasted on that loser, and my resolve hardened once more. By tomorrow, there would be no turning back for any of them. Chapter 6. The Unmasking the Abandoned Warehouse on the Outskirts of Baltimore. Once housed medical supplies. An ironic setting for Noah's meeting with the mysterious contact who had promised evidence exonerating his mother. He arrived early, scanning the cavernous space with growing unease. Hello. His voice echoed. Is anyone here? Footsteps. Noah turned to see a man emerge from the shadows, mid-30s, military bearing, carrying a leather briefcase. Mr. Reynolds, the man greeted him. Thank you for coming. You said you have information about my mother's case? Noah prompted, keeping his distance. Indeed. The man placed the briefcase on a dusty countertop. But first, I need to understand why you believe your father fabricated evidence. Noah hesitated. Because I know my father. He's calculating. Cold. He found out my mom was having an affair. And instead of confronting it like a normal person, he did this. Interesting. The man nodded thoughtfully. And you believe your father possesses the capability to frame 2 innocent people so thoroughly that multiple intelligence agencies are involved? He worked in government intelligence for decades. Noah replied. He has connections. Impressive for a man you described to others as a loser, the man observed, his tone hardening slightly. Noah froze, the implications sinking in. Wait, who are you really? The warehouse. Lights suddenly blazed to full brightness, revealing a dozen operatives in tactical gear position throughout the space. Among them stood Sophia, her expression grim as she approached her brother. "Hello, Noah," she said quietly. "Sophia, what the hell is going on?" Noah demanded, panic rising in his voice. "Education," she replied simply. "You've spent years believing Mom's version of reality. Now you get to see the truth." The man with the briefcase opened it to reveal a sophisticated computer setup. With a few keystrokes, the warehouse walls illuminated with projected images, surveillance photos, documents, video footage. Preston Harlow, the man began, gesturing to the displays. Former Naval Intelligence officer, dishonorably discharged in 2007 for selling classified information. Reinvented himself in the pharmaceutical industry using contacts from his military days. "That's not." Noah started to protest. "Your mother met Preston in 2020 during a classified operation your father was leading in Vienna," Sophia continued, advancing the displays to show dated photographs of Dominique and Preston at a gala. She was there as Dad's cover. Preston was there representing interests that directly opposed American security. Noah shook his head in disbelief. "Mom isn't a spy. She's an interior designer." "Mom is whatever she needs to be," Sophia corrected him. "Interior designer. Loving wife. Spy. Did you never wonder how her small design firm could afford her lifestyle? How she always seemed to travel to the same cities where Dad had operations?" The displays changed to financial records showing millions flowing through accounts in Dominique's name. "Your mother has been selling information from Dad's operations for years," Sophia stated flatly. At first, for a fun lifestyle, later because she developed ideological sympathies with Preston's employers. "This is insane," Noah whispered, backing away. "Dad put you up to this. This is all part of his revenge." "Is this revenge too?" The man activated a final display showing Noah himself, meeting with Preston at his company headquarters months before the family reunion. "You were being recruited, Noah. Not for an internship, but as an asset. Leveraging your resentment toward your father to gain access to his knowledge." Noah stared at the footage in horror, recognizing the meeting, but seeing it through an entirely different lens. "I didn't know. I thought it was just about an internship." "You didn't want to know," Sophia corrected him. "You were so eager to believe Dad was the villain that you never questioned why Preston Harlow, a pharmaceutical executive you barely knew, would take such interest in a college student with no experience in his field." Noah sank onto a nearby crate, his world collapsing. "Where's Dad now?" "Completing what he started," Sophia answered. "The question is, which side are you on, Noah? Because after tonight, there's no middle ground left." Across the city, I sat opposite Dominique in a sterile interview room within a federal detention facility. She looked haggard, her designer clothes replaced by a standard-issue jumpsuit, her makeup-free face showing every one of her 50 years. "I always knew you were vindictive, Vincent, but this." Dominique gestured at their surroundings. "Treason charges, international warrants, all because I fell in love with someone else." "Is that what you think this is about?" I asked mildly. "What else? You couldn't stand being left, so you fabricated this fantasy that Preston and I are criminals." She leaned forward, dropping her voice. "The lawyers say none of it will stick. You've overplayed your hand." I smiled slightly. "Did Preston ever tell you about his time at Biograde? Or his special arrangement with the North Korean pharmaceutical program?" Dominique's expression flickered briefly. "More lies." "Perhaps," I conceded, "but effective ones, judging by how quickly international agencies became involved." "Tell me, do you remember a vacation we took to Lake Geneva in 2016? You insisted on that specific hotel, the one with a private boat launch." The color drained from Dominique's face. "That was years ago." "Indeed. During an operation tracking biological agents moving through Switzerland." "Curious timing for you to suddenly desire a Swiss vacation, especially at a hotel where 3 known arms dealers were staying." I tilted my head. "I've overlooked so many coincidences over the years, Dominique. So many strange alignments between your social calendar and sensitive operations." "You're delusional," she whispered, but without conviction. "The affairs I could have forgiven," I continued as if she hadn't spoken. "The disrespect. even the poisoning of Noah against me. But selling out your country, endangering operations that cost good people their lives. My voice remained steady even as my eyes hardened. That's unforgivable. I want my lawyer. Dominique demanded, standing abruptly. By all means, I agreed, also rising. Though you might want to wait until tomorrow. Tonight, Interpol is executing search warrants on 17 properties connected to you and Preston across 9 countries. Whatever they find will significantly impact your legal strategy. As I turned to leave, Dominique called after me. You won't win this, Vincent. You've never understood how many friends I have. How many people would choose me over you? Noah already has. I paused at the door. About Noah, you might be surprised by his current perspective. Family reunions can be so enlightening. The look of uncertainty that crossed Dominique's face was all the confirmation I needed. The seeds of doubt had been planted. As I exited the facility, my phone vibrated with a message from Sophia. Noah's in. Operation Severance Go. I allowed myself a genuine smile for the first time in months as I texted back a single word, execute. Chapter 7. Total demolition 3 weeks after Dominique's arrest. International news outlets exploded with new revelations. Comprehensive evidence had emerged showing Preston Harlow's pharmaceutical empire was built on stolen research, much of it from classified military medical programs. More damning still were documented connections to bioweapon programs in multiple countries. All trails leading back to companies where Dominique Reynolds served as a silent partner or consultant. I watched the coverage from a secure facility in Northern Virginia, surrounded by monitors displaying real-time reactions across global intelligence communities. Beside me sat Noah, still shell-shocked from his rapid education in his family's true history, but determined to make amends for his blind loyalty to his mother. They're saying Mom could face the death penalty, Noah said quietly, staring at news tickers scrolling across one screen. That's unlikely, I replied. She'll be offered a deal in exchange for information on Preston's network. Will she take it? I considered the question. No. Her ego won't allow her to implicate herself, even to save her own life. She still believes her connections will protect her. Noah shook his head. How did I never see any of this growing up? Your mother is exceptional at compartmentalization, I explained. And I deliberately kept both you and Sophia insulated from my work. Not Sophia, Noah corrected me. She's been working with you for years, hasn't she? I nodded, pride evident in my expression. Since college. Her medical research position is genuine, but also provides excellent cover for intelligence gathering. The door opened and Sophia entered, carrying several tablets. It's done, she announced. Preston's lawyer just received the evidence package. He's already called 3 times requesting a meeting. And the offshore accounts? I asked. Frozen. All 15 of them, Sophia confirmed. The London and Zurich properties have been seized. Mom's design firm is being raided as we speak. I turned to Noah. Are you still certain you want to proceed with your part? Noah squared his shoulders. Yes, I need to make this right. Hours later, Noah sat across from his mother in the same interview room I had used. Dominique brightened at the sight of her son, reaching for his hands across the table. Noah, thank God. Have you spoken to the lawyers? This nightmare. I know everything, Mom, Noah interrupted, pulling his hands back. About you and Preston. About what you've been doing all these years. Dominique's expression hardened. Your father got to you. No, Mom. The truth got to me. Noah placed a document on the table, a sworn affidavit. I'm testifying against you and Preston. About the meetings, the recruitment attempts, everything. You can't be serious, Dominic. After everything I've done for you. I protected you from knowing what your father really is, a cold, calculating killer who values his missions more than his family. That's exactly what you wanted me to believe, Noah acknowledged. But now I understand why he was distant. He was protecting us from the consequences of your actions. Dominique's face contorted with rage. You ungrateful little. Save it, Mom. Noah cut her off, rising. The prosecutors have offered me immunity in exchange for my testimony. I suggest you consider a similar arrangement while it's still available. As he turned to leave, Dominique called after him. He'll discard you too, Noah. Vincent doesn't forgive betrayal ever. Ask him about Cairo if you don't believe me. Noah paused at the door. Already know about Cairo, Mom. The difference is I'm owning my mistakes. You're still denying yours. Across town, I met with Preston's attorney in an upscale law office. The lawyer, sweating despite the powerful air conditioning, pushed a proposal across the polished table. My client is willing to provide complete details on Mrs. Reynolds' involvement in exchange for considerations regarding his sentencing, the attorney explained. I reviewed the document dispassionately. Your client seems to be under the impression that this is a negotiation. Mr. Reynolds, surely you understand the value of Mr. Harlow's cooperation, the lawyer pressed. He could provide names, dates, account numbers, everything your wife did while using his business as cover. Interesting that 48 hours ago, Mr. Harlow was proclaiming both his and my wife's complete innocence, I observed. Quite the reversal. The lawyer shifted uncomfortably. New evidence has created new perspectives. Indeed. I slid the proposal back untouched. Please inform Mr. Harlow that his offer is declined. The evidence against both him and my wife is more than sufficient without his cooperation. But the lawyer sputtered. Also, I continued as if the man hadn't spoken, inform him that additional information regarding his activities in Damascus in 2018 will be provided to prosecutors tomorrow morning. He might want to adjust his legal strategy accordingly. The color drained from the lawyer's face. Damascus? There's nothing in the current charges about Damascus. Not yet, I agreed, standing to leave. Give Mr. Harlow my regards. That evening, I convened with my team, trusted former colleagues, intelligence operatives who owed me their lives or careers, and my children. The conference room wall displayed a complex flowchart of operations spanning 2 decades. We've dismantled their financial resources, Sophia reported. Every account we know about has been frozen or seized. Their social capital is equally compromised, added Alan Merritt, a former CIA deputy director. Preston's political connections have all distanced themselves. Dominique's influential friends have gone silent. What about the unknown factors? I asked. Dominique's reference to friends suggests contingencies we haven't identified. We've been monitoring all communications, Noah offered, now fully integrated into the team. Nothing unusual has been detected. I nodded thoughtfully. Then we proceed to the final phase. Sophia, initiate protocol severance. As the team dispersed, I stood alone before the flowchart, studying the intricate connections I had spent weeks mapping and was now systematically destroying. Each node represented a relationship, an asset, a protection that Dominique and Preston had cultivated over years. One by one, the nodes on the display began changing from green to red as my team executed protocol severance, the complete and irreversible isolation of the targets from every resource and relationship they had ever established. By morning, Preston Harlow and Dominique Reynolds would stand entirely alone against the full force of international justice, precisely as I had planned from the moment I had walked away from that family reunion 3 months earlier. Chapter 8. The hammer drops 2 days before the preliminary hearing that would determine whether Preston and Dominique would be tried separately or together. I received an unexpected visitor at my Virginia home. Special Agent Walsh arrived without warning, his expression grave. We have a situation, he announced. Dominique has disappeared from federal custody. My expression didn't change. Disappeared during transfer to the courthouse for a pretrial meeting with her attorneys? Walsh ran a hand through his thinning hair. The transport vehicle was found abandoned. Both agents unconscious but alive. No sign of Dominique. I nodded slowly. The contingency she hinted at. Impressive. Walsh studied me carefully. You don't seem surprised. I'm not, I admitted. Dominique always maintains escape routes. I've been expecting something like this since her arrest. My superiors are suggesting you might be involved. Creating an opportunity to deal with her personally. I smiled thinly. Your superiors credit me with too much influence over federal prisoner transportation protocols. Maybe, Walsh conceded. But they've authorized surveillance on you, effective immediately. Whatever history we have, Vincent, I can't interfere with that. I wouldn't expect you to, I assured him. Tell your superiors I'll be staying right here, easily monitored. No sudden trips or unexplained absences. After Walsh departed, I contacted Sophia. Your mother has fled custody. Right on schedule, Sophia replied, unsurprised. Facial recognition caught her boarding a private jet at a small airfield in Delaware 90 minutes ago. Destination filed as Toronto, but the flight plan diverted over Pennsylvania. She's heading for the lake house, I concluded. Predictable. She believes the emergency documents and cash are still hidden in the boathouse safe. They are, Sophia confirmed, along with tracking devices in every bill and document. Noah has a team standing by 20 miles from the property. Tell him to maintain position, I instructed. She won't be alone, and I want to identify everyone involved in her escape network. For the next 18 hours, I performed the role of concerned, bewildered husband perfectly. I cooperated fully with FBI surveillance, made appropriate calls to attorneys, expressing shock at Dominique's escape, and appeared genuinely distressed in a brief press interaction outside my home. Meanwhile, Sophia and Noah monitored Dominique's movement from their operation center. My mother had indeed gone directly to the family's secluded lake house in upstate New York, accompanied by two men identified as private military contractors with ties to Preston's overseas operations. She accessed the safe 30 minutes ago, Noah reported. GPS trackers show movement north toward the Canadian border. And Preston? I asked, speaking via encrypted line from my study, while FBI agents monitored the exterior of my home. Still in custody, but his attorney has filed emergency motions claiming the evidence against him is inadmissible due to your personal involvement in the investigation, Sophia answered. The judge has scheduled a hearing for tomorrow morning. I considered this information. Preston is a distraction. Your mother is the priority now. She'll attempt to cross at a minor checkpoint using credentials from the safe. We've alerted customs discreetly, Noah confirmed. They'll delay, but not detain her. Enough to allow our team to intercept before she realizes it's a trap. Good, I approved. I'll join you once she's secured. The surveillance on me will ease once they believe she's fled the country. 12 hours later, Dominique Reynolds sat in a Spartan room within a hunting lodge deep in the Adirondack Mountains. Her escape had proceeded flawlessly until the border crossing, where unexpected delays had forced her to divert to a secondary route. There, her security team had been efficiently neutralized by operatives she never saw, and she had found herself transported to this isolated location. The door opened and I entered alone. I should have known, Dominique said bitterly. Was there ever really an escape, or was it all your orchestration? The escape was genuine, I replied, taking a seat across from her. Your connections are impressive, or were until recently. What happens now? You turn me over to the authorities to face a show trial based on evidence you fabricated? I shook my head. Nothing I presented was fabricated. Manipulated and strategically revealed, yes, but every document, every photograph, every financial record is authentic. Dominique's composure faltered slightly. You can't prove intent. I don't need to. The evidence speaks for itself. I leaned forward. But we're not here to discuss your legal predicament. We're here to discuss Noah. Noah? Uncertainty crossed Dominique's features. What about him? He's made his choice to testify against you, which places him at considerable risk from your remaining allies. My voice hardened. I want the names of everyone in your network who might consider him a liability. Dominique laughed incredulously. You expect me to help you protect the son who betrayed me? I expect you to do one decent thing as his mother, I replied evenly. But I'm prepared for your refusal. I placed a tablet on the table, displaying a video feed of Preston Harlow in his cell, sleeping fitfully. What is this? Dominique asked, confused. Preston's cell is currently pumping in a colorless, odorless compound derived from one of his own company's experimental formulas, I explained clinically. At his current exposure level, he'll experience progressive neurological deterioration over approximately 6 weeks. Symptoms begin with tremors, advance to memory loss, and culminate in complete cognitive collapse. Horror dawned on Dominique's face. You're poisoning him. I'm demonstrating consequences, I corrected her. The compound can be neutralized completely if administered within the next 4 hours. After that, the damage becomes irreversible. You're bluffing, Dominique challenged. You don't have access to a cell's ventilation system. I simply raised an eyebrow. The same way I didn't have the capability to frame two innocent people for international crimes? Dominique stared at the screen, watching Preston twitch in his sleep, the first subtle sign of the compound taking effect. The names, Dominique, I prompted. Every contact who might target Noah. In exchange, Preston receives the antidote. And if I refuse? Then I return you to federal custody. And nature takes its course with Preston. My voice was devoid of emotion. Your choice. Dominique's eyes darted between me and the screen. Calculation and fear warring in her expression. Finally, resignation settled over her features. There's a ledger, she said quietly. Hidden compartment in my desk at the design firm. Names, contacts, payment records, everything. I nodded. Sophia will verify that information immediately. If it's accurate and complete, Preston receives treatment for an unexpected reaction to his medication. If not, I let the implication hang in the air. You become a monster, Vincent, Dominique whispered. No, I corrected her, standing to leave. I have simply become what you always accused me of being, the man who puts objectives above sentimentality. The irony is, I learned it from you. As I exited, Dominique called after me. What happens to me now? I paused in the doorway. You'll face trial for everything you've done, but Noah will be safe. The only gift I have left to give the son who called me a loser. The door closed with finality, leaving Dominique alone with the consequences of 15 years of deception. Chapter 9. The Reckoning. 6 months after Dominique's recapture, I sat alone on the deck of a modest cabin overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The property, registered under a name unknown to anyone from my former life, represented my final severance from the past. Behind me, the cabin door opened as Noah emerged with 2 cups of coffee. Court TV says the jury's been deliberating for 3 days, Noah reported, handing me a steaming mug. Analysts are split on which way they'll go. I nodded, unsurprised. Your mother's defense team mounted an impressive case. The manipulated by love narrative plays well with certain jurors. Do you think she'll be acquitted? Noah asked, taking a seat beside me. No, I replied with certainty. The evidence is too comprehensive. Your testimony too damaging. But she'll likely receive a lesser sentence than Preston. Preston Harlow had already been convicted on multiple counts of espionage, sentenced to life without parole at a maximum security federal penitentiary. His mysterious neurological episode during pretrial detention had left him with persistent tremors and memory lapses that humanized him to the jury, precisely as I had calculated when ordering the antidote administered at the last possible moment. I spoke with Sophia this morning, Noah mentioned. Her cover in Europe has been officially restored. The agencies are satisfied that her involvement in Mom's case was strictly familial, not operational. I smiled slightly. Your sister has always been adept at managing perceptions. We sat in comfortable silence, watching waves crash against the rocky shoreline below. I had officially retired from all government work, my security clearances voluntarily surrendered. Noah had withdrawn from his university program, instead pursuing specialized training with former colleagues of mine, men and women who recognized the young man's potential and his need for redemption. Do you ever regret how far it went? Noah asked suddenly. The international warrants, Preston's condition, all of it? I considered the question carefully. Regret suggests I would choose differently, given another opportunity. I wouldn't. Not even for my sake. I was collateral damage in your war against Mom. You were a casualty of your mother's. Decisions long before mine. I corrected him gently. She poisoned you against me for years, Noah. The reunion simply forced me to acknowledge how successful she'd been. Noah winced at the memory of his cruel words. I'm sorry for what I said that night about Preston being a better father. You believed it at the time, I observed without rancor. Your mother is exceptionally persuasive. Still, Noah insisted. I should have seen through her manipulation. Perhaps I allowed, but you've more than compensated through your testimony and subsequent choices. My phone vibrated with a news alert. I checked the screen, my expression unchanged as I read the notification. The verdict? Noah asked. I nodded. Guilty on all counts except one. Sentencing in 3 weeks, but the minimum mandatory is 20 years. Noah exhaled slowly. It's really over then. This chapter is, I agreed. Life continues. Later that evening, as Noah slept inside the cabin, I received a secure call from Sophia. Congratulations, Dad, she said. Justice served, I noted. At a considerable cost. But worth it. Sophia asked, knowing me well enough to understand my calculus. I gazed out at the moonlight reflecting off the Pacific. They took 15 years from me, Sophia. 15 years of lies, manipulation, and betrayal. They mocked me publicly, turned my son against me, and compromised operations that cost lives. And now? Now they have decades to contemplate the consequences of underestimating a man they dismissed as a loser. My voice carried the finality of a closed account. So yes, worth every sacrifice. Noah is healing well, Sophia observed, changing subjects. His training reports are excellent. He has potential, I agreed. Different from yours, but valuable in its own way. Will you tell him about the new assignment, the consultancy? I smiled slightly. When he's ready. Some talents shouldn't be wasted in retirement. After ending the call, I remained on the deck until dawn, watching the inexorable rhythm of waves against stone. Nature's patient demonstration that even the hardest surfaces yield eventually to persistent force. Inside the cabin, secure files waited with details of emerging threats and requested assistance from agencies that valued my particular skills. My official retirement had never been intended as an ending, merely a transformation. The man who had been publicly humiliated at a family reunion, who had nodded and checked his watch and walked away rather than causing a scene, had not been demonstrating weakness. He had been exercising the patience of a master strategist who understood that true victory required not emotional outbursts, but calculated, relentless execution. As the first light of morning touched the horizon, I opened the file and began planning my next moves. The world had not become safer during my brief retirement. There were still threats to address, still justice to dispense, and I, freed from the burden of pretending to be less than I was, had never been more dangerous.